to log in and join the call. Hi Patsy, hi Megan, hi Hildy. Nadine, are you on? Hi there, she's here.
Okay. You're live.
So this is gonna be fun.
Oh, well, I don't have to be in it.
Are you sure?
Oh, yeah, I'm positive.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
So, sorry, Frugal Vagabond, Leah here, Renee.
Hello, everybody.
Jollyn. Did you get a chance to read it?
I did. Whole
Awesome.
chapter. I mean, there's
Awesome.
2 chapters, so
Yeah,
there's nothing.
super easy. Okay. Lean in if you want to. If you're okay with being off, that's okay too. And let's see. I'm trying to. Yeah, this is going to be a little bit weird, so that we can still read the comments. So anybody lean forward.
Why
if you
don't
like.
you, are you already live?
Yes.
Oh. Because one of you could kind of read it and one of you could be more on it.
Yeah. Well, we're kind of.
Introduce first.
Yeah, we're going to do the introductions first. So, Girl Chick, Barbara. Okay, only one person on YouTube so far. That's okay. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. One of the reasons why we're doing this, the book Outlive came out last year, and it was a life-changing read for me. Super important about a lot of things that are important to me that have to do with health and longevity and Healthspan. And Renee and I got to talking about this book because I blab about it to pretty much anyone who will listen. And we share some common interests in this. So this is one of the reasons why we decided to do the book club. And
I just jumped in yesterday because I thought, wow, this looks interesting.
so another person that I've conned into reading the book.
Yeah, done. Easy read.
Right, very easy read. Okay, so book one, I'm going to let Renee introduce herself. So go ahead.
Hi everybody, I'm Renee Shaw, and you can follow me on YouTube at Renee Shaw or on TikTok at Shaw Renee, and it's SHULLRENEE. Or you can follow Al the Elephant. He goes on Unforgettable Adventures. He's on our channel as well. And happy to be here.
Okay. Would you like to?
I'm Jollyn. I'm a world cruiser. I love to read. And the book looked interesting.
Awesome. Okay, so that's everybody introduced. Can someone post the book link in the chat?
Let me get on TikTok and do that.
Okay, so Renee, thank you, Nadine. Jollyn, Renee is going to do that. She's got to open her TikTok to do that. Thank you. And Nadine, if you want to join the group, let me know. I can add you I can invite you. I can scroll back up and get that link. I'm not sure if you're interested in going quite that far, since this is the first book club meeting. So I'm trying to find the chapter 1. Obviously, chapter 1, 2, and 3 are basically the introduction, part 1. Hi Jen, hi Gary, for the whole book. Chapter 1. Well, let me ask first, how many people have read the first 2 chapters so far? Are you just joining kind of cold?
And do you want the link from Amazon, or where do you want the
Go ahead and use the Amazon one. The one in the middle does a lot of work with the content. It's very well done. I don't know. Thank you. Has anybody read Outlived? I'm joining cold, haven't read. Okay, gotcha, Nadine. Okay, so if you do read it next time, let me know, and we'll get you in on this next cold from London. Okay, so I'm just gonna assume that most people are joining cold. Chapter 1, basically an introduction of all the concepts, and what Outlive is about concentrating on Healthspan. Also, to some extent, lifespan, but Healthspan as a more important part of that. Where we're at right now, if any of you guys have seen, Game Changers or on Netflix or the Blue Zones, which I think is also on Netflix. There's a lot of programs out right now about how to improve the quality of life later in life, and really where we're at. Realistically, most of us can expect to live into our 90s. So if we do certain things. the overall life expectancy, at least in the United States, has gone down over the years. It used to be about mid 80s, and now it's late 70s. But because of the new information that we have, studies that have come out, and people taking an active interest in maintaining their health into the later years, we're looking at a very real possibility of into the late 80s, 90s, and even into the hundreds. But there's certain things that you need to,
Character limit reached.
hold on just a second. I need to, where is my, sorry, I had to get somebody off the YouTube. I don't know why it is, but YouTube people are just,
They can be mean.
yeah, you guys, on lives, you guys are just really horrible. Okay, so sorry. Where was I at? Okay, so now we know enough to actually be very practical about the choices that we make and the things that we do in our 40s, 50s, and 60s that can actually get us to the 90s and 100s, barring any, accident or. Did you get that?
No, I'm getting a character limit.
Ah. Oh, because
I gotta do a tiny URL.
Sorry, Nadine. We will get the the link on. She's got to do a tiny URL in order to get that up there. Okay, so I want to talk about the first ideas that are presented in chapter 1. The main thing is that cancer, illness, whatever, doesn't care how rich you are, doesn't care how many friends you have, does not care
Your social status.
your social status, or whether or not you have the best doctor or the lousiest doctor. The author is Dr. Peter Attia, with also extra info with Bill Gifford. And again, the title is Outlive, and again, Dr. Peter Attia. So this is a reality. Like, COVID was a thing that really showed us.
Shortened our lifespan.
Shortened our lifespan a lot. There's a lot of people who are dealing with long COVID.
The link is now up, everybody.
Okay. Where is it?
It's
Oh, okay, it just hasn't shown up there.
yeah.
Okay. All right. Hopefully that'll show up in just a second. We've got a little bit of lag on our stuff, on our side. So we really have to take an active role in what it is we're doing and how we're living. So I'll talk about the Four Horsemen. This is a concept that the author introduces. The four horsemen of dying are cancer, heart disease, cardiovascular disease, neurological, and type 2 diabetes, and metabolic related function. So those are the four things that generally cause the downfall, take us to the end, and are the chronic things that happen to us as we age that get us to that point. Yep. So I'm going to open it up for questions from the group here.
And 80% of the Four Horsemen are people die over 50 due to those Four Horsemen. 80% of the people die because of those 4 reasons.
Right.
So
what do you like? I think I'll just talk about. I think mine most likely is probably gonna be heart disease. That's. I think that is
mine is too.
The most common.
Based on previous relatives and what they passed away from.
Right. How about you?
See, I actually think it's not necessarily. My husband was totally healthy, and was diagnosed with cancer and died at 55.
Oh.
So he went from 0 to nothing, no family history, no nothing like that. So I think the one everybody should really be aware of is that cancer. But what I liked interesting about this chapter was the idea of fast death versus slow death.
Yes.
And the fast death, the idea of like you're going to get hit by a car.
That's fast.
That's fast. But I do think the slow death people, they always assume it's never me.
Yes.
Do you consider the slow death a form of suicide because we just are doing it slowly? I mean, just because we know what we're putting into our body is either good or bad for the most part.
No.
And we make a choice.
I think it's the marshmallow theory. Because the marshmallow theory says if you have 2 marshmallows, and you say, listen, they give you 1 marshmallow and they say if you eat 1 marshmallow, that's all you
Yes.
get.
Yeah.
But if you wait, I'll give you 2 marshmallows.
Yep.
And I think as humans, it's really, really hard to say, I'm envisioning,
Lasting long enough to get the 2 marshmallows.
yeah.
Okay.
So I think that is the issue.
Good point.
The thing
We
I-
are very bad as a group at delayed gratification.
Yeah, like look at me. I've got my coffee sitting next to me.
I got my hot chocolate.
Oh, but look, she's got her water.
I do.
Yay!
Well done.
Oh, we'll talk about that later. I started doing keto yesterday because I just got to do something different. I'm getting frustrated with myself, and the amount of sugar that's available on this ship is outrageous.
Yeah.
And so I'll address going back to the heart disease. You're right. The cancer that's one of the things that we don't know enough about, at least in all circumstances, to prevent. You know, most of the others,
Like diabetes.
Yeah, diabetes, heart disease, and neurological. There are practical things that we can do every day that can at least stave those off. But cancer is so random. It's not necessarily predictable.
But I think that goes back to the difficulties in the medical system.
Yes.
If you jump to chapter 2, it talks about the 2.0 and the 3.0. I think our medical system is really not set up for helping you to stay healthy.
No,
No, it just-
absolutely not. It's only there to fix stuff that's broken.
Yep.
Um,
Kind of like they said in the book, the best time to fix a roof is when the sun is shining,
yeah.
not when it's raining and your roof is leaking.
Gary, I know, yeah, changing your addiction to sugar is very tough.
Oh,
And TJ says they'll be back. Okay, gotcha.
Okay.
Do you get free cancer screening in the USA? There is nothing free in the
No.
United States. I do want to take this back to heart disease, though. For those of you who know my husband, if you've watched any of the videos, very fit person. And ever since I've known him, has been a very healthy eater. I mean, like, it's irritating eating with him sometimes because he always makes a healthier choice than I do, and it makes me feel like I'm being bad. And he had a heart attack at 59. And, you know, even like Renee and I were talking about this the other day, and she's like, I still can't believe
That he had a heart attack.
That he
He's
had a
so
heart
fit.
attack. You know,
and my husband, we watched Game Changers, and we changed how we completely ate, and he lost 50 pounds.
yep.
He was diabetic at 8.5, and now he's pre-diabetic. He's changed everything, and is feeling so much better.
It has indeed been a game changer for you
Yes,
guys.
absolutely.
So I want to talk about everybody knows what lifespan is. It's one of those, it's you're alive or you're dead. That's the definition of lifespan. And Healthspan, the official definition is, let's see, free from disability and disease. That's the definition of Healthspan. So one of the points that he makes is, you know, like right now I am free of disability and disease. How about you, Jollyn?
At the moment.
At the moment,
At the
right?
moment.
And Renee?
Yep, at the moment.
None of us are functioning at the level that we did when we were in our 20s,
No.
which makes me so angry. Sarah,
Except
oh my
for-
God, kidney
except for the
transplant.
common sense.
Oh,
I have much more common sense than I had
Yeah.
at 20.
Wow.
oh, your friend Sabrina is on the world cruise. That's awesome. And Sarah, that's just amazing, very amazing.
Mine is being typed.
What's I don't know what that means. Yeah, we've got a bunch of weirdos
Yeah.
on YouTube. Anyway, where was I going? Okay, so the concept of Healthspan that Dr. Peter Attia goes through in the Outlive book is that for him it needs to be better. The idea is if I want to be able to do certain things when I'm in my 80s,
Or
any of
90s.
us, or 90s, or 100s, there's a threshold that I need to be at now. My VO2 needs to be high, or
Do you
it
want to
needs to
explain
be.
what VO2 is for everybody?
I don't know if I could actually explain it. So the maximum capacity that your lungs can
For oxygen.
for oxygen intake and output. So like if you want to run up a bunch of stairs, if your VO2 max is very low, it's going to limit you because you're going to run out of breath. So if your VO2 is very high, you'll be able to do that. So that's the practical definition of VO2 max. So your VO2 max needs to be now at above average or high for your age group in order to be able to do that in the subsequent decades. And you need to keep it up. It's not easy.
And he talked in the book about the Centurion Olympics.
Yeah, the Centurion Decathlon.
Yeah.
So I love this
At age
concept.
100, you want to aspire to maintain that level of health and functionality at that age. You want to just keep becoming an Olympian.
Yes. And I want to be able to bathe myself for, for my life. I mean, I don't want other people doing it for me. I mean, that loss of that freedom and autonomy and function is really frightening to me. I don't have kids. But neither me or my husband have kids. So
you're going to rely on strangers.
Jollyn's going to lend us one.
I only have one. But
Yeah, so it's absolutely going to be strangers, and it's going to be strangers that we have to pay to do it, and that is, if we're in the U.S., it's going to be ridiculously expensive, and it's only getting more and more expensive as time goes on.
We have a
So-
neighbor who went into assisted living, and it's $10,000 a month for someone to bathe, wash them in the U.S.
That's ridiculous.
should come on a cruise ship.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your plan? You have kids. Or both of you guys have kids,
Yeah.
so you have family.
Yeah. Plan is not to rely on them so that they're not burdened, because caregiving is ridiculously hard to do.
It is.
Caregiving.
It's a lot to put on
and it's a
anyone,
lot.
or even just a group of people. Yeah.
But what you just gonna, the kids or the daughter?
No, I think I've set things up pretty well.
Okay.
I mean, even though I have a child, and having been a caregiver, I have a different perspective of it.
Yeah.
And so you put those things in place and say, this is already running behind your back.
And that's exactly the way to do it.
And my
right?
parents were of the thinking,
Hope
well,
for the best, but plan for.
I took care of my parents, so you have to take care of me. That
Oh.
entitlement mentality.
Yeah.
Well, I did tell Caroline nursing home was blind. So,
Gotcha.
when Caroline was small, she took violin lessons, and we would take these children learning to play the violin to this nursing home, and it was horrid. But all the residents loved it, and I couldn't figure out why. And it was because before the violinist came, the nursing home had, if your medications didn't prohibit it, open bar. So by the time the little kids
Nice.
got there playing their violin, they were like, oh,
Yeah, we
Yeah.
get wine.
One of the questions is, do we do a vegan diet? I'm really plant-based with a little meat. So I'm also vegan, plant-based with a little meat. Just try not to do that. My downfall is sugar.
I have been, I've been a vegetarian before. I've never been vegan. I'm not right now. Protein is more, getting enough protein is more of a concern right now, and I'm not big on any of the vegetable proteins that are available to me. So I'm not sure where I'm going to go with this. I'm right now, my big concern is to get my weight under control, get my metabolism under control, and then see where we go from there.
And are you vegan, vegetarian?
we are always plant-based. For some years, we were very, very strict vegan. Then we're vegetarian, but always plant-based.
Okay. So I'm the odd person out on this one. Always run into a wall when trying to be consistent. Yeah, it's
Yes.
tough. It is really tough.
It's tough.
And it's so one of the reasons why we're doing this on the cruise ship. I'm kind of following a theme here. It is also not easy to exercise regularly. One, because we're really busy. Two, also because when the ship is doing this,
It's hard to run on the treadmill.
it's really hard to run. Or when it's storming outside, it's really hard to walk.
Like
A lot of
today.
people do laps around the ship on the outside. Kind of hard to do that when deck 12 is closed. We sometimes have deck 5 as an alternative, but even that gets closed sometimes depending
Or
on
you
how
get
rough.
sprayed by seawater.
Or you get sprayed by seawater, which I guess isn't horrible, but it's also not optimal. It doesn't make me want to spend a lot of time out there in any case. What do you have a regular? Yeah, see, none of us have a regular right now.
I used to, before I got on the ship, have a very
So my
regular plan.
and my
Yeah.
husband runs 5K every day.
Yeah. Oh,
On the
even
ship.
here?
Even here, every day.
That's amazing.
Oh my God, we should give him one of those.
He should be on
Royal
this.
Caribbean medals.
So I'm hoping to make a change this with I'm getting a couple other people involved, hopefully, because it's easier to stick to it when other people are relying on you to be there. So that's the idea, the group mentality. So going back to the concept of Healthspan, for Dr. Peter Attia, and specifically in this book Outlive, he talks about how to him it has to be so much more than that. It has to be actively improving your mental and physical abilities, not just keeping the status quo.
And that includes sleep,
Yes.
mindfulness, eating, stress management.
Right, so everybody knows you need to eat well and exercise, right? But and we'll get into this in later chapters, but what that means for each person is not necessarily the same. And going into the concept in chapter 2 between medicine 2.0 and 3.0, and I'll get a little into what that actually means in a minute, but treating each person like they are an individual and not mass.
The average of everybody.
Exactly, the average of everybody.
Yeah.
And this is something that's frustrated me for a long time. And just to give an example, I had a colonoscopy because it was time for that right before I came on the ship, in the months leading up to coming up on the ship. And they give you the same prep medication. So there's stuff you have to do the day before. You drink this medicine and it kind of clears you out for the colonoscopy. And they give me, I'm 5'4" and 5'2" and 140 pounds. And they give me the exact same total prep medicine that they give somebody who's 6'5" and 250 pounds. That's not necessary. I don't need that much stuff. And yet that's it. And they preach to you have to drink it all. I didn't. I drank maybe a half to a quarter of it. And I was just fine. But with all kind of medication doses, it's like that.
Yeah, just treating us as the average, whether you're male or female.
Yes.
Well,
Another frustrating thing, because our bodies physiologically do not react to things the same.
I agree that is a huge problem.
Yeah.
Again, going back to my husband, he was in a lot of clinical trials,
Oh.
and his particular cancer was more common in women than in men.
Interesting. So the
and-
opposite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And many of the medicines worked phenomenally for him, but not for the women in the study.
Interesting.
Really?
But yet they were given to women even though they didn't work.
Or as well.
Yeah, as well.
Well, if it's a clinical study, there, yes.
But I mean, like the results were, and that was one of the things that really came out was women are going to process things totally different than men.
Yeah, absolutely. Another awesome book recommendation. Okay, so apparently I meant
Do you want me to put the link in again?
Why We Sleep by Dr. Matthew Walker. Yeah, go ahead and put the
I
link
don't
in
like the
again.
full player.
Always run into a wall when trying to be consistent. Oh, I saw that one before. Okay. So, what we're going to be going over as we go through the chapters with this book is the strategy, tactics, and what was the other? Strategy, tactics, and whatever. This is I'm getting into chapter 3 on how to get everything together. So the important part is you have to understand why the science behind the strategies and why those are important before you get into the how-tos. And so that's what I'm really looking forward to going over. So this is just kind of a start point for us. So let's talk about the difference between medicine 2.0 and 3.0 as discussed in the book. So medicine 2.0 is where we're at right now. There is some explanation of where he thinks 1.0 was in the Middle Ages. Bloodletting and, putting holes in people's heads and other random...
Washing your hands before you do surgery.
Right, so that was something that came out of, one of the good things that came out of medicine 1.0 is washing your hands and knowing about germs and how they affect pathologies. But so now we're in 2.0 where 99.9% of what the medical community does is react to things that go wrong. We get some information about preventative care, but it's usually vaguely defined and again, not specific to you. or your gender or your age or your weight. It's just eat right and exercise. That is super vague and very difficult for people to follow.
And what does eat right mean? How much
Right.
exercise do I get?
Right, and what kind of exercise do I get? So, and again, those things are specific to each person, right? Or should be specific to each person. I have notes here, by the way. One of the main points that he brings up with Medicine 3.0 is it is preventative, but the focus is more on being proactive. So preventative kind of means, I think in his interpretation is that there's a passiveness to being preventative. You know, if you go in to get your teeth cleaned, that's preventative, but you're not really doing anything, your dentist is, or your hygienist. Proactive is taking an active role and doing things yourself that specifically are helpful.
Yeah, that will prolong your life
That will
and
prolong
free
your
of
life.
chronic disease.
Yes, thank you. He also spends a lot of time talking about risk, and I'm going to try not to blab a whole lot about this because risk is one of, like I could talk for half a day on the subject of risk. Risk is not something to be avoided. It's something to be managed and mitigated and expected.
Because if it's predictable, it's preventable.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And risk in the medical sense is, no, I don't think it's really well understood. He goes into some examples specifically about the Women's Health Initiative that did a study that basically for the last 20 years has made hormone replacement therapy really difficult for a lot of women to get. When you really break down the results of this study, there was
some risk, but it was like what, one in
1,000.
Yeah.
Which was I can't remember if it was 0.1% or 0.01%. Great, increased risk, and that has changed the way the medical community and insurance companies have dealt with a very real medical problems for women for the last couple of decades. So a lot of people and who should know the difference between these things really don't, and they don't take it into account when making these sort of broad, sweeping decisions.
The media, I think, just takes that one sentence out of there and then blows it up.
Yes, and it frightens people, and that's.
What do you think?
I think the idea of misunderstanding scientific studies is 100%.
Yeah. So one of the things because risk in this context is not any different, in my opinion, than risk in any other context. Every time you make a decision, you are taking a risk, and I'm a huge fan of doing calculated risks. So when you decide to get out of bed in the morning, that's a risk. You're choosing to get out of bed rather than to stay in bed, and you could fall, trip, whatever.
Driving
it's
a car down the road.
Driving your car down the road is a risk. But if you're driving your car down the road to, buy healthy food, is it a risk worth taking? And also, when you're taking risk, you're also making a choice. So if I am choosing to go rock climbing is again a risk, but also there's health benefits to that. And if that's if you're scared of it, maybe don't. But if that's something you enjoy and is, I imagine rock climbing is really good for stability training,
arm strength,
and
I
just
think you
upper
should
body.
go with me to that deck.
Okay, apparently I'm going to be signing up to do rock climbing
climbing.
at some. I'm sorry, I keep
you're
touching you. Anyway, so whenever you're choosing one thing, you're not choosing something else. If you're choosing to eat a cheeseburger from McDonald's, somebody mentioned that in the YouTube chat, you're not choosing to have a salad somewhere else. Or maybe, I guess you could choose both. But if you are choosing to spend your time exercising, then you are not choosing to spend an hour sitting in front of the television, not doing anything.
Yep.
So choice and risk are one of those things that are, to me, just that no matter what you do, you're choosing, and no matter what you do, you're taking a risk. If it's a calculated risk and if it's good for you, go for it.
And the choices you make determine the rate of change or the rate that you decline.
Yes.
Based on the choices you make. You want to decline faster or slower?
It's asking me if I want to invite you. You're here, so you're
Yeah.
good.
Question.
Okay. She's gonna leave. Whoa, she's gonna leave for just a second. Okay. So does everybody kind of understand the concept of 3.0? It's getting in front of things. It is preventative, but it's also being proactive. It's us taking an active role in
Our lives.
in knowing what the real things are that we should do, in doing them, in having these discussions with our doctors.
And my life is set to a musical track. So when she mentioned this book, we talked earlier about Incubus, and Drive is the song, and Drive myself. Hold on a second, I wrote down the lyrics.
We were talking about
Will I
this
choose
yesterday.
water over wine, or will I hold my own and drive? And it's all about taking control of your life. Are you going to take the steering wheel and drive,
Yep.
or let society or not take control and just have a slow death or a quick death?
All right. Somebody suggested you crush your legs, by the way. I'm going to put you through a timeout. Okay.
My hands are walking.
Yeah, that's okay. Anyway, so I'm going to talk about some of the tools. Okay, so one of the tools that's discussed in chapter 2 is that's new and has not been around for very long is continuous glucose monitoring. So one of the horsemen is metabolic disorders. Pretty much everyone in the United States has some kind of metabolic disorder. It's just something. Well, I won't say everyone in the United States, but probably everyone over the age of 45. If you haven't hit that point yet, you're probably on your way. It's to a certain extent, it just happens as you get older, but
It can be controlled.
it can be controlled, yes. So continuous glucose monitoring it's a device that you can wear on you. Generally speaking, you wear it for about a week. You eat normally, and it gives you real-time information about exactly what's happening with your blood sugar, specifically after you eat certain foods. So as an example, everybody knows that white refined rice is very starchy and can cause an insulin spike. The issue is that not everybody reacts the same. Some people react stronger to corn or to, I'm trying to think of something else that's...
Just sugar?
Yeah, or just straight up sugar, more so than white rice. If you know which ones your triggers are for your specific metabolism, you can control that. You can switch out.
Well, and they have the glucose monitoring for diabetic 1 and 2. And there was a gentleman at our table in the first leg, and he would eat something, and an app on his phone would tell him whether it spiked or not, and he'd have to get insulin immediately.
Oh. So he actually had active type 2 diabetes.
Type 1.
Oh, type 1. Okay, so that, correct me if I'm wrong, that means he had it since he was a kid, right?
Yes.
So that's the child onset. Okay.
Yeah. But that invention, he now knows immediately what he eats is going to either spike his insulin or not.
Yep.
Within-
Which is
Amazing.
huge information if you're trying to, control your insulin response, control your metabolism, all of that stuff. And the frustrating thing about that, I mean, it's the device itself is a little over $100. The strips are, $25 for a box or whatever, not very expensive. But insurance companies won't cover it, and
Instead, they'll pay for have your leg amputated because your diabetes is out of control. They'll pay for that.
Right. Well, they will cover it if you're pre-diabetic or diabetic. But if you just want to know that information to keep yourself from getting to pre-diabetic or diabetic status, the pharmacy won't give it to you. You have to have a prescription. And the doctor won't write the prescription for you unless you are pre-diabetic or diabetic. So again, we're looking at this.
You already have to have the disease.
This is medicine
2.0.
2.0 in a nutshell. You already have to have the disease in order to get the things that can help you control it. You can't use it ahead of time to keep yourself from getting the disease. White carbs spike glucose, potatoes, rice, pasta, white flour, sugar. Yeah.
Yes.
So, the ones I've seen do require strips. So, or maybe it's. Now I'm thinking. I believe that. Well, the ones I've seen do. That's cool that not all of them do. Maybe it's just the reader or whatever. But not all white carbs spike for the same people the same way. My husband has a family member who is diabetic, and he's been, he takes insulin, and the reason why I use the white rice example is because potatoes don't spike for him the way white rice does. That's another good example. So like he can tolerate a certain amount of potatoes, but white rice, no, not absolutely not. He's got to do brown rice. Can't do white at all. And again, because everybody's a little bit different, and how your bodies handle these things is always a little bit different. I need some water. After talking about the medical community treating you like an individual, he talked a little bit about designer medicine and nanobots, which we are not at yet, and I don't think we will be really in our lifetime.
No.
Not in my lifetime, and probably not in Renee's, but maybe in her kid's lifetime.
But I mean,
we might be there.
We found a vaccine for COVID very quickly, and Hep C.
Oh yeah.
But we can't seem to find other, what do I want to say? Other remedies for other diseases quickly, like cancer. We've been working on that for how many years?
And
we just,
very little progress has been made on specifically on cancer.
so I don't see longevity being right up there that we're going to move that quickly like we did COVID vaccines.
It would be nice, but back over a little bit.
Yep.
So there are 4 points in Medicine 3.0. She's back. Feel free to lean in if you want to. So the 4 points of Medicine 3.0, emphasis on prevention over treatment. So we've talked quite a bit about that so far. Every patient is a unique individual.
We talked about that.
And we've talked about that. Honest assessment and acceptance of risk. Okay, we haven't talked about this. So this was a big point in chapter 2, where he talks about the Hippocratic Oath and
Do no harm.
Do no harm. And my favorite part in the book, I think, is where he calls that sanctimonious bullshit, and also not helpful. So I think everyone who's watching this can probably imagine a time in their life where you had a choice of doing something and doing nothing, and doing nothing was not the right choice for the outcome that you wanted. I'm a super ambitious person. I'm a doer as opposed to a wait and see kind of person. So my whole life is full of that kind of stuff. I know not everybody's the same way.
I'm a doer.
Are you a doer? How about you?
In general, I do.
Yeah. So, which is why we're here doing the live stream. If we weren't, we would be doing something else. But doing nothing can actually be harmful. And he talks about specific ER room sort of things that are good examples of this. There was a gentleman who came in with a
nick on his heart or lung.
Yeah, he was a stabbing victim, and they were treating him. They thought he was going to be fine, and all of a sudden he started behaving very strangely. And it turned out there was a nick in the pericardium, which is the sac around the heart, and the guy could have literally died any second, and would have died within the next couple of minutes. There was no time to get him into the OR, so they basically
Opened him up and
right
stitched
there
him up.
and stitched him up. Something that only took a few seconds. If they had done nothing or waited, that do no harm, he would have died. So they harmed him in order to help him, and I don't think that's normal for the kind of stuff we're really talking about.
Yeah.
But it gives the example of you need to really understand what your risks are, which is why understanding the science and the background is so important. And really know where you're going.
Diet soda is the biggest weakness of mine. So he talked about, was that in chapter 1 and 2, about the fatty liver and versus an alcoholic liver versus a diet.
Non-alcoholic fatty liver disease.
Yeah.
I don't know if was diet soda related to that. That one I don't remember.
Or non-alcoholic liver disease.
Yeah. So, and I'll give an example of this. So, why it's so important to understand what you have going on with your numbers. So, before I read this book, so I read it in like June, July of last year, and in February I had some blood work done, And the results came in, never went over it with my doctor. They never brought it up, even though we were kind of there before. Or, I'd seen her since this time. And when I pulled up my results and compared them with what was going on in the book and what their recommendations were, I had 4 different markers
That they never talked to you about?
that they never talked to me about. They never brought up. And so the next time I had an appointment, I brought the book in and I brought my results, and they're marked in red. It's not as if I don't have to look up the results to say if this is good or bad. They were marked in red. And this particular doctor always has medical students that see us first, and then she comes in and when she's talking to us, she's also talking to them to kind of, that's the teaching part of it, right? So, why aren't we doing anything about this? And there was something that they, because of the results, they knew it was non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. But I'm like, I've got 4 different markers. We need to address this.
Were they not high enough that they wanted to address them, or just they ignored?
I'm not sure. I mean, I don't want to make an assumption or say that she was a bad doctor. She's actually very good in terms of not only talking things through with me, but with the medical students. I think somebody just dropped the ball on this. I think maybe because so many people are coming in and out, it was different medical students every time we came in. It may have been that because of the lack of consistency, it maybe slipped through the cracks. But it took me bringing that in and saying, we need to address this before it gets any worse, and I need to change some things, and you guys need to help me with this.
So you took the wheel and drove.
Exactly. And this is one of the reasons why I say this was a life-changing book for me, because it put me in charge of looking at what my results were, and then using the information in the book to have the right conversation with my doctor and to know what I should be asking for.
How has your experience been with your doctors?
Horrid.
Horrid?
Okay.
Horrid.
Come on in.
Well, interestingly, right before we came on the cruise, my daughter had blood work done, and there was a very high marker. And I said, message your doctor. He said, oh, it's because you've been drinking. My daughter said, I don't drink. He said, no, I'm certain you were drinking that day.
Oh.
We said, no, this is not. We went back and forth arguing with him, and he was like, I don't know why you're so concerned with this. And we're like, because it's saying,
you should be concerned.
You should be concerned. And he was adamant that because she was 23, that she had not disclosed that she had been drinking, even though she had never been drinking.
So what'd you do with that?
I hope you got another doctor.
We ended up with another doctor, but just by sheer luck.
Okay.
Because in our system,
You get who they give you.
and our insurance our town is small, and it's very hard to switch doctors. Like they refer to it as doctor shopping. It's hard to get another doctor to take you on. You have to get approval from your insurance. So
Yeah.
I think it's a hard thing.
What you've just described is exactly how they came up with the concept of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, because it's later on in the chapters, but 20, 30 years ago, that wasn't even a thing. And when they were doing surgeries on people, they were seeing signs of fatty liver disease, which up till then had always been attributed to alcohol abuse.
Right.
And in this one, the story is that in this one case, there was a gentleman who drank a lot of sodas. He didn't drink alcohol at all, but drank a lot of sodas. And everybody, because he was a hospital staff, they knew him very well, and they were very well aware of that. And that's how they came up with the concept of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, that you could actually get this disease from things other than alcohol. And his inability to recognize that is just shocking to me. That's horrific.
And Sarah, you are right. You do have the right to be concerned no matter what.
Yes.
Yeah, and it really, but I think the problem with our current system is, I know you just said take the wheel and drive, but really I kind of want to say, I'm trusting you to know.
Yes.
But if you
But
have,
they're also human.
but if you have 10 minutes to talk to me before your next appointment,
Yeah.
you may not care.
Also another problem
Yeah.
that they don't have time. It's a very much an assembly wheel system. Again, this is specific to the United States. Not every country deals with medicine this way. But the sanctimonious, yes, I know you're drinking, crap. Just, oh God, that makes me so bad.
Okay, so we did honest assessment, Healthspan.
Okay, so Healthspan versus lifespan, concentration. So again, who wants to live to 100?
If
Who
my
would-
health is good, yes.
And you? Maybe.
Depend on the political climate.
I have never been one of those people who wanted to live to 100. I mean, not to be all mushy or whatever, but before I met my husband, well, actually, even when I was younger, I figured I'd be dead by the time I was 40 anyway.
Oh,
and
look at you now.
and I'm over that. So it's all bonus years, right?
Well, I've had two really good aging role models.
Okay.
The first one was a volunteer in my classroom. She started volunteering for me at 86.
Oh wow.
And she was the first woman in the Stanford chemistry program.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah, and she was active and cognizant and great, literally to the moment she died. And the second one was my neighbor, who was also in her 90s, active in everything, had a social life that put mine to shame, but really just super happy. Like the weekend before she died, she went on a political march, which was
Awesome.
her thing. She volunteered at a church function, and she literally died taking care of her bird feeder.
Wow.
So it was like perfect to, super active, and so those are my aging role models, which I think we all need an aging role model.
I
Well,
agree.
social connections and a positive outlook on life is huge as well. It
Yeah.
sounds like they both had that.
Yeah, and both just wonderful women.
I've had, well, not one that I've spent a huge amount of time with, but I did a random story about my life. I did an interview with a 90-something-year-old Hollywood screenplay writer when I was in my 20s. And him and his wife were both in their mid-90s, sharp as tacks. Like,
Wow.
when I was doing the interview with him, I had asked a question that he felt was really dumb of me, and he went, I wasn't offended. He just kind of went after me like, you dumb 20-year-old kid, what the hell are
What
you
do you
talking
know?
about? And I was just like, I just got chastised by a 98-year-old man for being dumb. So, that was...
That was probably a true statement.
But I was asking him if he wrote something that was in the screenplay versus, was it sort of a traditional thing? And like, of course I wrote it, you dumb twit. But anyway, that was the situation. But it was hilarious. It was, I think that was probably the first time I've really seen somebody that mentally engaged. And as far as I know, they didn't have a huge community. They lived in one of those very small towns, and literally the driveway to get up to the front door was this really winding. Like I know they didn't drive. They had people who drove them or did things for them, but they communicated a lot with each other. The people that did come by and were very not active so much physically, but mentally for sure.
So in the chat, TJ, Tam, you've got people that have lived well over 100. Have you asked them what are they doing for their longevity and what's their strategies?
Or you're asking Tam?
I'm
Okay.
asking TJ and Tam that have,
Okay.
and Lilia, your
Lilia.
great aunt ended up living to 102, 103.
That's amazing. See,
That's
so you have
just-
a really good chance of doing
A
that.
great uncle living to 100. Just amazing.
Yeah. So now I do want to live to 100. Because to me it's almost a competition. I'm super competitive too. So to me it's like a competition. How can I do it? Can I hit 100? And can I still?
And what's the
maybe
oldest?
not.
What's the oldest age that people have lived in your family? Mine is 86 relatives.
So my dad's parents were both in their mid 80s when they passed away. But I had all I'm going to say this. All 4 great grandparents on that side of the family were alive when I was born and didn't pass away until I was like in 8, 9, 10, somewhere around there. I think the first one passed away when I was 8 years old. So they all lived into their late 90s.
Let's say 90s.
Wow.
Yeah. And my mom's mother, my mom's father was an alcoholic, so he died when I was 1.
Right.
But
As
her
expected.
mother, right, but her mother died when she was in her 90s too. So
Okay.
nobody to 100, but mid 90s
So
for
with
sure.
your husband, his family did how long? Because he had a heart attack early on. What is his?
We've talked about that some. It's kind of
Doing your interior
hard
walking
to
today?
suss out on,
I was
on
just keeping
everyone
this gentleman company.
because
The
I'm trying to
pool
think.
table wasn't
So
working,
his biological father passed away just recently, but again, hard living,
Yeah.
not exactly clean living. So
In the 80s, 90s?
no, I'm gonna say 70s or 80s, and early. So also, we've talked about different grandmothers who had markers for things, but lived very, well past what they
Yeah.
maybe should have. So we'll see how the longevity works there. TJ says, my goal is just more than my dad's. The oldest of my 3 dads is turning 69 this year. You can go
Wow.
higher than that, TJ. I'm quite sure of that.
Earlier, my great aunt had 2 siblings, one being my grandpa who lived pretty long too, not quite hundreds.
Yeah.
Wow.
Hi, Barbara. Good to see you. So,
we have
so you maybe not quite 100, but depending on the political climate. What about you? How long do you want to live?
100's fine. 95, 100. As long as I'm not a burden to my kids.
Yeah.
Or the system.
Or the
Oh, I want to be a burden to my child. That, and right when I turn 90, I'm buying 4 puppies.
There you
Okay.
go.
So,
Well, having an animal does prolong your life because you have to get out and walk and take care of them.
oh no, I'm just getting even with her.
Okay, 4 puppies. Okay. And any reason for the 4 specifically, or?
Oh, 4 corgi puppies.
Oh, 4.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you want obnoxious dogs?
Exactly.
Okay.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
that way she'll be so.
The only thing worse than corgis would be Jack Russell Terriers, I think.
I've only
I'm
had
kidding. I love all dogs. But Jack Russells are a little hyper for my
Yeah.
temperament.
But I think if I had 4 corgis, then
Okay.
it'd give me a reason, and she'd have to be there all the time taking care of the dogs.
Okay.
She wouldn't even recognize me as a burden. She'd be so concerned with the dogs.
Okay, let's see. Okay, so we've talked about healthspan versus lifespan again, because living to 100 does not make any sense if you're in a bed for the last 10 years. Nobody wants that.
No.
Messy and let's see. If I get into a situation where I can't look after myself, I'd rather go to Switzerland. Yeah.
We have a friend that says that when he gets into a situation he can't look after himself, he's going to go to Hawaii and jump off a cliff and say, I'm done.
Going out with a bang. Okay, so final concept. So we're almost at the hour mark, so we're gonna wrap this up in a little bit. So the thing I want to leave everybody with, and get you ready for the next one. Healthspan and the concepts in this book are all about being more responsible, informed, medically literate, clear-eyed about your goals, cognizant of the true nature of risk, and you must be willing to change and take an active role. That's the gist.
That's the big one.
Yeah.
Take
And
an active role.
some people maybe aren't there yet, but I'm hoping that the more we get into this, it'll kind of inspire you to say that. I think a lot of people don't want to take an active role in the beginning when they hear about this stuff because they don't really know what they're supposed to
Well,
do.
change is scary.
And change is scary.
And hard.
Yeah.
So let's see. And one of the reasons why I want to talk, Dr. Peter Attia probably owes me some residuals or something for the amount of books that I've sold on, because I really do talk about this book to everybody. TJ says, happy that my mom and uncle support what I can't do for myself, right? Is because I lost my, see, here we go. I've lost my train of thought. Yeah, getting more out of life, thriving. So I think that as we go through and giving you guys walking you through the book and giving you practical information about how to take advantage of the information that is currently out there and what we can maybe look forward to in the next decade or so. But there's some real practical, easy, I mean, change is hard, but it's really not that hard to implement these things.
And if you have a support system, it's easier.
Yes, and which is kind of why we're doing this here. We're
She's
actually
going rock climbing.
I'm going rock climbing apparently. But we're also starting the new middle age group. So the middle age is no longer in your 40s. Now it's in your 50s because we're all going to live to be 100, right? So now middle age is 50s. Because it is kind of difficult to get the amount of exercise, the kind of exercise and the type of exercise we need to do to stay up in that above average to high VO2 max and stability and all of that stuff. So we're kind of doing it to inspire each other and to hopefully get some other folks involved in this too. What is it, Scotty? I'm not sure what's going on between TJ and Scotty. I've like missed something here. Oh, I just got this Switzerland comment. I'm not gonna make an additional comment on that. Anyway, so again, let's try and kick ourselves up into
And hold each other accountable.
and add 10 years to our life and hopefully 20 years to our health span. That's the goal. So thank you everybody for participating, and for all of you who were here this week, if you have a chance to get the book and read it, we're going to be doing chapters 3, which is the last part of part 1 of the book, and then we will do chapter 4, which is the first part of part 2 of the book. So 3 is going to go into the strategy and tactics and sort of operations things, and then we'll get into the first chapter of the practical advice for moving forward. Scotty, thank you. Much appreciated. I really appreciate everybody who's here. Even if you just sort of randomly stumbled into this live. Oh, and I will further, we're going to do these about once a week. It won't necessarily be the same day of the week, but I will do videos on both YouTube and TikTok to tell you the exact date and time 2 days before we're actually going to do it. And I'm trying to keep somewhat on U.S. time zones for the evening and daytime for Australia, but as
It's 9 o'clock here in Indonesia, or on our way to
on our way,
Indonesia.
and it's going to keep changing as we go. So at some point, I'm going to have to start doing these at like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, which is probably not going to work for me.
Thank you, Scott.
And anyway, thank you all for participating and joining in. Hopefully, I really want to get some more back and forth. I realized most people were coming at this cold, so there weren't a lot of questions to be asked. But if you have read and you've got some questions, write them down and bring them with you to the next one. We'd love to,
Figure it all out together.
Yes, exactly. Then, bye. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks. And now, I don't know how to turn off the live on YouTube. Yep, okay.